My screen visible?
Not
Not
yet.
yet, bro.
Okay.
Coming up. Yeah,
Yes.
now visible.
Okay, Prabhuji. So last time we read till text 32. Yeah, till 31. So we'll start reading from text 32, and there are, I think, 72 verses, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. Yeah. So like 40 verses, so we can have 4 devotees volunteer to read. Any volunteers? Okay. Yes, Nupur Mataji.
Hare Krishna
So
Prabhuji, can you please repeat how many verses do I need to read?
10 each. Will yeah, 10 verses each person. Yeah, text 32.
When egoism in ignorance is agitated by the sex energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the subtle element sound is manifested. And from sound come the ethereal sky and the sense of hearing. Persons who are learned and who have true knowledge define sound as that which conveys the idea of an object, indicates the presence of a speaker screened from our view, and constitutes the subtle form of ether. The activities and characteristics of ethereal element can be observed as the accommodation of room for the external and internal existences of all living entities, namely the field of activities of the vital air, the senses, and the mind. From ethereal existence, which evolves from sound, the next transformation takes place under the impulse of time, and thus the subtle element touch and thence the air and sense of touch become prominent. Softness and hardness and cold and heat are the distinguishing attributes of touch, which is characterized as the subtle form of air. The action of the air is exhibited in movements mixing, allowing approach to the objects of sound and other sense perceptions, and providing for the proper functioning of all other senses. By interaction of the air and the sensations of touch, one receives different forms according to destiny. By evolution of such forms, there is fire, and the eye sees different forms in color. My dear mother, the characteristics of form are understood by dimension, quality, and individuality. The form of fire is appreciated by its effulgence. Fire is appreciated by its light and by its ability to cook, to digest, to destroy cold, to evaporate, and to give rise to hunger, thirst, eating, and drinking.
Thank you
By
so much,
the
Mataji. Oh, yeah, you can actually read 2 more. Yeah, sorry.
By the interaction of fire and the visual sensation, the subtle element taste evolves under a superior arrangement. From taste, water is produced, and the tongue, which perceives taste, is also manifested. Although originally one, taste becomes manifold as astringent, sweet, bitter, pungent, sour, and salty due to contact with other substances. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Nityakishori Mataji.
The characteristics of water are exhibited by its moistening other substances, coagulating various mixtures, causing satisfaction, maintaining life, softening things, driving away heat, incessantly supplying itself to reservoirs of water, and refreshing by slaking thirst. Due to interaction of water with the taste perception, the subtle element odor evolves under superior arrangement. Thence, the earth and the olfactory sense, by which we can variously experience the aroma of the earth, become manifest. Odor, although one, becomes many, as mixed, offensive, fragrant, mild, strong, acidic, and so on, according to the proportions of associated substances. The characteristics of the functions of earth can be perceived by modeling forms of the Supreme Brahman, by constructing places of residence, by preparing pots to contain water, etc. In other words, the earth is the place of sustenance for all elements. The sense whose object of perception is sound is called the auditory sense, and that whose object of perception is touch is called the tactile sense. The sense whose object of perception is form, the distinctive characteristic of fire, is a sense of sight. The sense whose object of perception is taste, the distinctive characteristics of water, is known as the sense of taste. Finally, the sense whose object of perception is odor, the distinctive characteristics of earth, is called the sense of smell. Since the cause exists in its effect as well, the characteristics of the former are observed in the latter. That is why the peculiarities of all the elements exist in the earth alone. When all these elements were unmixed, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin of creation, along with time, work, and the qualities of the modes of material nature, entered into the universe with the total material energy in 7 divisions. From these 7 principles, roused into activity and united by the presence of the Lord, an unintelligent egg arose, from which appeared the celebrated cosmic being. This universal egg, or the universe in the shape of an egg, is called the manifestation of material energy. Its layers of water, air, fire, sky, ego, and Mahat Tattva increase in thickness one after another. Each layer is 10 times bigger than previous one, and the final outside layer is covered by Pradhana. Within this egg is the universal form of Lord Hari, of whose body the 14 planetary systems are parts.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes, Kameshwar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Virat Purusha, situated himself in that golden egg which was lying on the water, and he divided it into many departments. First of all, a mouth appeared in him, and then came forth the organ of speech, and with it the god of fire, the deity who presides over that organ. Then a pair of nostrils appeared, and in them appeared the olfactory sense as well as prana, the vital air. In the wake of the olfactory sense came the wind god who presides over that sense. Thereafter, a pair of eyes appeared in the universal form, and in them the sense of sight. In the wake of this sense came the sun god who presides over it. Next, there appeared in him a pair of ears, and in them the auditory sense, and in its wake the Digdevatas, or the deities who preside over the directions. Then the universal form of the Lord, the Virat Purusha, manifested his skin, and thereupon the hair, mustache, and beard appeared. After this, all the herbs and drugs became manifested, and then his genitals also appeared. After this, semen, the faculty of procreation, and the god who presides over the waters appeared. Next appeared an anus, and then the organs of defecation, and thereupon the god of death, who is feared throughout the universe. Thereafter, the 2 hands of the universal form of the Lord became manifested, and with them the power of grasping and dropping things. And after that, Lord Indra appeared. Next, the legs became manifested, and with them the process of movement. And after that, Lord Vishnu appeared. The wheels of the universal body became manifested, and thereafter the red corpuscles or blood. In their wake came the reverse, the deities presiding over the wheels, and then appeared the Brahman. Next grew feelings of hunger and thirst, and in their wake came the manifestation of oceans. Then a heart became manifest, and in that wake of the heart, the mind appeared. After the mind, the moon appeared. Intelligence appeared next, and after intelligence, Lord Brahma appeared. Then the false ego appeared, and then Lord Shiva. And after the appearance of Lord Shiva came consciousness and the deity presiding over consciousness. When the demigods and presiding deities of the various senses were thus manifested, they wanted to wake their origin of appearance. But upon failing to do so, they re entered the body of the Virat Purusha one after another in order to wake him. Correct.
Krishnan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. The god of fire entered his mouth with the organ of speech, but the Virat Purusha could not be aroused. Then the god of wind entered his nostrils with the sense of smell, but still the Virat Purusha could not refuse to be awakened. The sun god entered the eyes of the Virat Purusha with the sense of sight, but still the Virat Purusha did not get up. Similarly, the predominating deities, the directions, entered through his ears with a sense of hearing, but still he did not get up. The predominating deities of the skin, herbs, and seasoning plants entered the skin of the Virat Purusha with the hair of the body, but the cosmic being refused to get up even then. The god predominating over water entered his organ of generation with the faculty of procreation, but the Virat Purusha still would not rise. The god of death entered his anus with the organ of defecation, but the Virat Purusha could not be spurred to activity. The god Indra entered the hands with their power of grasping and dropping things, but the Virat Purusha would not get up even then. Lord Vishnu entered his feet with the faculty of locomotion, but the Virat Purusha refused to stand up even then. The rivers entered his blood vessels with the blood and the power of circulation, but still the cosmic being could not be made to stir. The ocean entered his abdomen with hunger and thirst, but the cosmic being refused to rise even then. The moon god entered his heart with, with the mind, but the cosmic being would not be roused. Brahma also entered his heart with intelligence, but even then the cosmic being could not be prevailed upon to get up. Lord Rudra also entered his heart with the ego, but even then the cosmic being did not stir. However, when the inner controller, the deity presiding over consciousness, entered the heart with reason, at that very moment, the cosmic being rose from the causal waters. When a man is sleeping, all his material assets, namely the vital energy, the senses for recording knowledge, the senses for working, the mind, and the intelligence, cannot arouse him. He can be aroused only when the super soul helps them. Therefore, through devotion, detachment, and advancement in spiritual knowledge acquired through concentrated devotional service, one should contemplate that super soul as present in this very body, although simultaneously apart from it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, dear devotees, for volunteering to read the verses. I'll start with the prayers. Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantakam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sahagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Krishna Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshtarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krapa Sindhubhya Vacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratashe Namaha तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। I'll present my screen. Present. No. Okay. Is my screen visible, Prabhuji?
Coming up. Yeah, visible now.
Okay, perfect. So, quick recap from what we discussed last week. So we had a brief history of what has happened till now in Canto 3. Vidura and Maitra Muni are talking. Vidura inquires about Swayambhu Manu's progeny and how Kardama Muni and Devahuti procreate uh, this world. So then we also heard about how the advent of Kapila Dev happened, and then after that, what were the questions Devahuti asked Kapila Muni? Sorry, yeah, yeah. And eventually, like the question which Devahuti asked Kapila Muni was about, please explain me Sankhya and yoga and its limbs. Then Lord start giving a description about Bhakti Yoga, and then he gets into speaking about Sankhya philosophy, which was requested by Devahuti. So before speaking about Sankhya philosophy, Kapil Muni starts with the three results which will take place in the heart of a devotee who listens to the Sankhya Bhakti Sankhya philosophy, which are, you know, the devotee who listens Sankhya philosophy is freed from the influence of material modes, attains perfection of self-realization, and cuts the knots of attachment to the material world. Right? Then Kapila Dev, he starts with the glorification of the Lord by this verse where he tells Devhuti about some of the characteristics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like he's beginningless, he's the Supreme Soul, he's beyond the material energy, he's self-effulging, he has an effulgence which is which is not operated by a battery or by some limited source. And then yeah, and the last one is the maintainer. He's the maintainer of the entire creation. So we had a very elaborate discussion around this. Then we discussed about the example of Jiva as a human being sitting on the grass, then material energy, which is like clouds covering the sun. So from the perspective of sun, who's Supreme Personality of Godhead in this case, the clouds are not able to cover the sun, but actually they are covering the jiva. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always above the material creation, and the material energy cannot cover the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, the conditioned souls are covered, due to which we cannot see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we also discussed about, the Prakriti is the cause for Jiva's body, senses, and sense devtas. Uh, yeah, so this is the relationship between Jiva, Prakriti, and Purusha, in short, what we discussed last time. Right. So now moving on to the part two. So here, Devahuti, after listening to all this about the glories of Sankhya Yoga, about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and about the relationship between Jiva, Prakriti, and Purusha, Devahuti asked Kapil Dev about to elaborate the characteristics of Prakriti and Purusha. And over here, Srila Prabhupada, he mentions that, Devahuti is a very intelligent woman. She knows that the difference between Jiva and Purusha. That's why she is asking the relationship between Prakriti and Purusha, which gives an impetus for Kapil Dev to describe about the material elements, manifested and unmanifested material nature. Because with the interaction of Prakriti and Purusha only, this manifested and unmanifested universe comes into existence. So here I have a verse, Srimad Bhagavatam 3:26:10, where this verse is showing the characteristics of Pradhana. Uh, uh, you can also read it, and I'll read it for you. Yattatri gunam avyaktam nityam sad asad atmakam pradhanam prakritim prahur avishesham visheshavat. So, in this verse, the characteristics of Pradhana is being told. So, the explanation of Pradhana and Prakriti is that Pradhana is the subtle, undifferentiated sum total of material elements. So, my understanding of this is like when we knead a dough, so you take a bowl, and in that bowl, you put all the different, elements. You put wheat flour, you put water, you put little pinch of salt. Sometimes if you're making puri, you can put, ajwain, right? So everything, all the elements are lying in the bowl. That is like pradhana. So pradhana has um, all the material elements, but they are not manifested, right? So when the total material elements are manifested by the interaction of three modes, so when these material elements are manifested by the interaction of three modes, that manifestation is known as prakriti. But so pradhana is basically one step before prakriti happens, which is just a collection of material elements. Now the question arises, what are the material elements which are already present in pradhana? So Kapil Dev, he explains that there are 24 elements which constitutes pradhana. Five gross elements: earth, air, fire, ether, etc. Five tanmantras, the sense objects. 10 senses. The 10 senses are five working senses, five gyanendriyas, and five karmendriyas. And then four antakarnas, that is mind, intelligence, false ego, and chitta. Right? So these 24 elements are there in pradhana. Then Kapil Dev moves to the 25th element, which is time. Why time is specifically given so importance is because time is what actually is the representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead over here. So the 25th element in Pradhana is the time, and it is the instigator of fear of death in the conditioned jiva. So this is 3:26:11 verse. And when I was reading this verse and the purport given by Srila Prabhupada, so immediately, I came like the verse in Bhagavad Gita which talks about Krishna as the time came into my mind. Any guesses what's that verse is?
I know it, but I'm unable to remember. Kalau, yeah, Kalosmi.
Kalosmi.
Yeah, Lokakshay.
Yes, Prabhuji, exactly. So Bhagavad Gita 11.32 says Kalo Asmi Lokakshay Krit, which means the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, time I am the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people. Right. And then the third point is the agitator of gunas in Prakriti that lead to the material creation. Right. So this is very important actually to understand that, all the material elements were just lying in a neutral state in Pradhana, and they were not working to form any variegatedness in this material world. But then time comes in. So material nature cannot produce any variety of manifestation without the contact of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? Before this agitation, it remains in the neutral state without interaction by the three modes of material nature. Right. And in Chaitanya Charitamrit, this has been expanded very well. And there is an example which is given to prove that material nature cannot produce anything. Actually, not an example, but like an analogy. So this is the hint to the analogy. Anybody knows the hint? Knows the analogy? How it is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that material world cannot produce stuff about, like, by its own will, or any guesses? So what are you able to see in the picture, which is weird? And to be honest, like, I never knew that this bodily feature ever existed in a goat.
Is it like the thing hanging on its cheeks?
Yes, Prabhuji, you're thinking in the right direction, but what it can be?
I don't know, Prabhu.
Okay, so in Chaitanya Charitamrita, a very suitable example is given in this connection. So, like, you see the two hanging protrusion. Sorry, so the two hanging things, actually they look like nipples on goat neck, but they appear like breast nipples, but they do not give milk. And no matter how much a man pull those, it'll never give milk. Similarly, the material nature also appears to the scientist that it is acting and reacting in a wonderful manner, and it is giving so much of versatile variegatedness in this world. Like, it's giving so many things. And then scientists, they also believe that with some reaction in their laboratory, they can actually create life. But that is not true. That is like a man pulling these nipples to get milk. But the actual milk can only come when the Supreme Personality of Godhead wills. And you know, so the time here is the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And only when time agitates the neutral state of matter, which is in Pradhana, the material nature begin to produce varieties of manifestation. Right. So this is the importance of time, and specifically two verses are spoken by Lord Kapila Dev around time to show how important it is, and how the Lord starts the process of creation um, by entering into Pradhana in the form of time. And one thing which is very important to note here also, in this Bhakti Sankhya Yoga, what we can see is that the procedure is started by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it is also ended by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For example, like what we just recently read, all the translations, it was clearly shown that the Virat Rupa was not waking up by all the demigods, by all the senses and sense objects being present. But when the consciousness, when Aniruddha, Lord Aniruddha, in the form of consciousness, enters the Supreme Virat Roop, then the Virat Roop actually rises, stands on the causal waters, and the creation happens. So yeah, so that was time, and then comes Mahatattva. So after Prakriti is agitated by time, the Lord impregnates it with jivas, and it gives birth to the effulgent Mahatattva. Right. So Mahatattva is the stage where the elements are there. Now Lord also comes in the form of time, and Lord also sends Jiva inside Mahatattva. So this position, this state of Pradhana is known as Mahatattva, and the sum total of cosmic intelligence is also created, which is known as Hiranamaya. So Mahatattva is something which is very effulgent, and it is so bright that the darkness of the the darkness of dissolution, which happens after every pralay, is eradicated by the effulgence of this Mahatattva. So in third canto, chapter 26 and verse, I think, 17, it is it is stated that Mahatattva is something which is not destroyed at the time of annihilation. And Srila Prabhupada extends it and connects it to the idea that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is beginningless and endless. Similarly, all his energies are beginningless and endless, and they just stay in the state of dormancy for some time on his will. So Mahatattva stays in the state of dormancy, and then it lights up again for the creation to happen again after the dissolution, right? And then yeah, so the now let's talk a little more about impregnation of material nature. Bhagavad Gita also talks about Lord impregnating the material nature, and there is a specific verse, very famous verse around it. Any guesses?
Is that the Yoni
Yes,
something?
yes, Prabhuji.
I don't know the verse though.
So any other
Sorry, what's the
guesses?
question, Prabhu?
So Bhagavad Gita also talks about the Supreme Lord impregnating the material nature,
Oh,
right? And yeah, so there is a specific verse where Lord Krishna says, I'll tell you the translation, maybe then you'll be able to recall.
Sarva Yonishu Kaunteya, that one. No. Murtaya Sambhavanti. No.
Acha aham bija pradapita.
Yes, Mataji, one verse is Aham Bijam Pradapita, which Lord says that, okay, I am the seed giving father to all. But then there is another verse, the translation of which is like this: the total material substance called Brahman is the source of birth. And it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the births of all living beings, O son of Bharata. So this is Bhagavad Gita, 14th chapter, 3rd verse. Mama yonir mahad brahma tasmin garbham dadami aham. Right. So generally in this world also, we can experience that, the father gives life to the child, but mother gives its body, because it's said that, the soul is transferred into the body of the child through the semen. So the father gives life to the child, but mother gives the body. Although the seed of life is given by the father, the body is developed within the womb of a mother. Similarly, for the spiritual living entities, they are impregnated into the womb of material nature, but the body are being are being supplied by the material nature. So this is what Prabhupada says in the purport of this verse. So it's very similar. Like Prakriti is our mother, and Supreme Personality of Godhead is our father, who's impregnating, giving life to the bodies which is provided by the Prakriti. Right. And yeah. Yeah, and then Prabhupada also says that this specific verse, it is a proof which we can also quote to the scientists. When scientists, there is a huge debate, and Prabhupada has spoken so much on this, that life comes from life, and you cannot create life in the laboratories. So with all the cloning and other scientific advancements, however, the seed of the life, it is always coming from the life. It is never created in the labs through the through chemicals interacting with one another. And yeah, and we yeah, so now Mahatattva is there, and once Mahatattva is there, the gunas come in place. So the first one to enter is Sattva Guna, which is defined as clear, sober status of understanding about Lord. And in this manifestation, so this is known as Vasudeva manifestation, or the status of understanding Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is also known as pure Sattva, Shuddha Sattva, sorry, Shuddha Sattva. And in this status, in this condition where there is only Mahatattva and the mode of goodness, at this position there is no other contamination of mode of passion, ignorance, and therefore this state is actually called as Shuddha Sattva, and it makes very easy for us to understand about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to see Him face to face in this stage, is very easy. And Srila Prabhupada says that the Vasudev expansion is also called Krishna consciousness. So right now, the consciousness is there, like Jiva is there, material elements is there, then time is there, and there is only Sattva Guna. There is no mode of passion, there is no mode of ignorance. And Srila Prabhupada says that this is the actual state of Krishna consciousness, and it is freed from all tinges of material passion and ignorance. And in this state of understanding, one can know Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right. So let's talk more about it. So, what is the original Krishna conscious state? So, this is the verse which describes the original Krishna conscious state at the start of the creation. So, I'll read it for you. Swachatvam avikaritvam shantavam iti chetasa vrittibhi lakshanam proktam yathapam prakriti paraha, which translates to, after the manifestation of the Mahatattva, these features appears simultaneously. So what features? Swachatvam, Avikaratvam, and Shantavam. These features appear simultaneously. As water in its natural state before coming in contact with earth is clear, sweet, and unruffled, so the characteristic traits of pure consciousness are completely serene, clear, complete serenity, clarity, and freedom from distraction. Right. So this state of Mahatattva is also known as Shuddha Sattva, is pure status of consciousness or Krishna consciousness. And when I was reading this purport, and when I was reading through this, and I was understanding, okay, the Krishna consciousness is the original state without any contamination. Immediately, what came to my mind is that our process. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Cheto Darpan Marjanam." He did not say that. Like it's so practical, and it is validated by Sankhya philosophy also, that here Lord Kapila is saying that initially we all were pure, but then we chose contamination and then we became dirty. But now, because we are dirty, we need to do something to clean it. And therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that Cheto Darpana Marjanam. You clean the heart, the mirror of your heart, by chanting the holy name, and then you will be able to see the Lord in it. Right? So this is the mirror of our heart, which is dirty right now. But then if we clean it, we'll be able to see the Lord within the mirror of our heart. Right? And then Prabhupada extends this and he says, I'll quote him, in pure consciousness, one can perceive a slight reflection of Supreme Personality of Godhead. As in clear, unagitated water, free from impurities, one can see everything clearly. So in pure Krishna consciousness or Krishna consciousness, one can see things as they are. So any Shastric story that comes to your mind on this point, which is just which I just quoted from Prabhupada's purport? Any story which comes to your mind? It's very famous, actually. It's one of the acharya in our sampradaya. Guesses? Wild guesses. Can be anyone. Maybe Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I'll repeat again. The story should um, prove the point which Prabhupada is putting across, that in pure consciousness one can perceive a slight reflection of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah.
Slight reflection.
Yes. So Mataji, Lekha Mataji is saying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Narsimha Dev. ज्यादा सोच लिया माता जी, थोड़ा कम सोचना है इतना
And it's related to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela.
नहीं प्रभु, आई एम सेइंग दैट ही इज इन, sorry, he's in our sampradaya, and
Acha.
it's a story where he purifies himself, he gets the glimpse, and then it's gone.
Acha, Narad Muni, Narad Muni.
Yes, Prabhuji. So, and the story of Narad Muni, what happens is that Narad Muni was a son of maid servant, and um, one day four Bhakti Vedantas came to Narad Muni's kutia, and because Narad Muni's mother was very pious, so she invited them to please come stay with them for some time, and like she expressed the will to serve them. And then Narad Muni got the opportunity to have the association of these pure devotees, and while uh, he had their association, Narad Muni also got the the boon of serving them. So Narad Muni was serving them uh, very selflessly, and then being very happy with the Narad Muni's service, the Bhakti Vedantas were very merciful on him. And then Narad Muni immediately got detachment, and he wanted to really, follow the Bhakti Vedantas on their path of spirituality, and seek Supreme Personality of Godhead for himself. So a lot happened in his life, a very tragic story actually. And then he started walking north, and he did a lot of chanting, and a lot of austerities also, and he purified his heart, and in his heart he was able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he was feeling the ecstatic pure love within him, and immediately the image of the Lord vanished from his heart, and he became very agitated, and he broke his meditation. He opened his eyes and he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead standing in front of him. And then he said, like, the Lord, actually, Lord doesn't come in front of him, but then hears the voice of the Lord, and the Lord tells him that in this life you will get this much darshan only, but you perfect your life, and after this life you will come to my abode. Right? So Prabhupada is also making the similar point that that by entering into pure consciousness, by Cheto Darpan Marjanam, we can observe the Supreme Personality of Godhead in our heart, like Narad Muni did. Right. And then after the original Krishna consciousness, there comes the first contamination. And the first contamination which enters into Pradhana is false ego. Then uh, Mahatattva transforms into Ahankara, which is false ego. And there are three types actually. It mixes with three modes again. So yeah. So in the beginning, from the clear consciousness or pure state of Krishna consciousness, the first contamination sprang up. This is called false ego or identification of body as the self. So again, from Srila Prabhupada's purport, this is very interesting. So he says the living entity exists in the natural state of Krishna consciousness, but he has marginal independence, and this allows him to forget Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada explains that, even though it's not like a factory, it's not like a factory that, okay, you add all the 24 elements, then you add time, then you add jiva, then false ego automatically comes in. No. So we all were in state of pure consciousness in Krishna consciousness, but then we had free will. We had free will to accept false ego. We had free will and marginal independence to forget Krishna. And then we chose to forget Krishna and accept the false ego, due to which um, we s- grew senses, the sense organs, which will happen eventually. Like then we go on to the factory line where the process is like, we will discuss about the process now. So then, yeah, so we choose our contamination ourselves, and this is exhibited in our actual life, that there are many instances in which, someone who's acting in Krishna consciousness suddenly changes. People all the time, like we have several decisions to make in our daily life. Sometimes we make Krishna conscious decisions and sometimes we do not, right? And Upanishads is also therefore states that this path of spirituality is like a razor blade. If we are not very careful at every step of our decision, we might cut ourselves. And this cut ourselves means to go away from Krishna. Yeah, yeah. So recently I was listening to Anand Vrindavan Prabhu, and he recently gave a lecture in the Jaipur Yatra. Uh, yeah, Radha Gopinath devotees, they went to Jaipur with the Braj Vihari Prabhu, and Anand Vrindavan Prabhu spoke over there. So he is very, he gave like 10, his understanding, 10 understandings that why this material world is very cruel. So the essence out of it, or at least the takeaway which I took from that lecture was that, you know, we make, so the essence which I took was that in this world, people say that you come empty handed and you leave empty handed, which is very true, right? Mm, yeah, so you have nothing in at the time of your birth, and you have nothing at the time of your death. But whatever activities you do in this lifetime, they give you propensities. They give you propensities and which go with you lifetime after lifetime. So this material world is so cruel that it will not give you uh, good things. It will always give you bad things. That's what Prabhu was saying. And he said that, for example, a child, nobody has taught him to steal, but he goes to a play school and then he sees a very beautiful, stylish eraser uh, in pencil box of his partner, and then he gets this desire to take it and he brings it to home. So no one teaches their child the proclivity to steal, but yet the stealing propensity is there in a child, right? And so this is all is coming from the previous lives. For example, if a person who feels that, I want to be successful at any cost, and I want to cheat the entire world, or if I'm a politician, I can take bribe. So, and they feel that, okay, money is the definition of success. So they might be successful. They might even live a very rich life, and they might never be caught. But then the propensity of cheating, every time they accept a bribe, every time they, cheat, that ingrinds in their subtle body. And with every bad action, so, sorry, with every bad action, their propensity to do commit these bad activities increases, and they carry it in their next lifetime. So just wanted to share that. Yeah, any reflections, Prabhu, on this, like what we talked about, like, that propensities and proclivities in this material world, you have to carry it in the next life.
Oh, very nice point, Prabhu. And I just want to add that, yeah, even Krishna conscious propensities and proclivities we do carry. So, yeah, we can try to develop those kind of proclivities in our current lifetime and then carry that forward in the future lives. So,
Yes, Prabhuji. Oh, that is very interesting actually. Like we carry our Krishna consciousness propensities also. Because sometimes, when I'm like very stressed and I have a lot of work pressure, naturally, like it doesn't like Krishna conscious activities doesn't come to me directly, like automatically. So it's not like some people, they can just like tune into the kirtan when they are very stressed and they can just calm themselves. But for me, it is like I'm not at that stage where it's happening for me. So maybe I have recently started my spiritual journey. But yeah, that's good to know. We just need to do more of spiritual activities to ingrain it in our nature. Okay, so then false ego. Now, false ego mixes with all three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance to give rise to certain uh, elements. So the first thing which false ego mixes with is the mode of goodness, and it give rise to mind. So, and here, Prabhupada also talks about, how strong mind is and how difficult it is to control mind. Now, Bhagavad Gita, I know there is an entire chapter which talks about mind. Even Arjuna uh, tells Krishna that how difficult it is for him to control mind. Uh, so, yeah, again, what's the verse for that, where Arjuna is saying to Krishna that, it's very difficult to control mind, or at least telling about the characteristics of mind.
Sanchalam hi mana Krishna.
Yes, Mataji, spot on. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavadram. So Arjuna is saying that the mind is very restless, turbulent, and obstinate, and very strong. And Prabhupada extends this, and he says that, in this material world there are so many uh, theologians, or you know uh, philosophers, and scientists. But one thing, if you will talk to them, it is very difficult for them to be decisive. Decisiveness is a characteristic which Prabhupada says uh, is only available to the people who are Krishna conscious. If a person is not Krishna consciousness, it's very difficult for them to be decisive. That's what Prabhupada was highlighting in the purport, and he said that, all the self-help books on mind control and everything. you know any guesses why, the self-help books, there are like thousands and so many self-help books upon talking about mind control, self-discipline, etc., etc. But actually, when people apply that to their life, they might see the change, or they might see it helpful for a short period of time, but after that it just fades away for them. Any idea what might be the reason?
So, Vijay, I think it's because most of them tell you what to do, but not a lot of these self-help books. They dive into the core reason as to why we have these patterns. Whereas,
Hmm.
uh, so because we don't understand the core, it's easier to like get back to the old habits. Although, because you have to, it is a sadhana. You have to do the same habit every day. Versus, I I think like with the exposure of Shastra, we actually understand. Okay, it's not just us. I always remember this image of the painting that in Prabhupada books where there are these three demigoddesses kind of people who have strings and they're basically controlling the modes of
Hmm.
nature. So it's purely not us. We are definitely being influenced. So when we get that perspective, then then it makes then we understand, okay, why Shastra said that. Why do they say chanting? What does it do? It's a slow process, but your foundation is gets solid. So next time any deflection happens, you always understand. You can always trace back and understand where this is coming from, and it's easier for us to course correct ourselves, but strongly.
Yes, yes, definitely, Mataji. Yeah, absolutely correct. And also, one thing what I have observed is, like, the people who write self-help books and everything, they observe themselves a lot. So they might find a solution to a problem which they are facing, but it might not be universal for all. So that is also like a problem with self-help groups, sorry, self-help books. And also, what after reading the purport, what I felt that Prabhupada was telling is that, there is also not, there is no taste, there is no engagement in engaging the process given by the self-help books. However, in Krishna consciousness, the process is so sweet that we have uh, alternates and good alternates to everything, whatever we used to do earlier, right? Which not only recharges us, but also gives us deeper understanding about ourselves. So therefore, like the Srimad Bhagavatam, specifically studying about like Sankhya philosophy, at least I can speak for myself. Like when I studied about the Sankhya philosophy, I was able to, delineate that how, you know, uh, scientifically the genesis of the creation happened, and then why, like even like many questions, like uh, like should we worship demigods or not? We'll come to that question, in the next slide. But Prabhupada talks about that also here while talking about Sankhya philosophy. So here, uh, let's continue with the PPT. And here, the false ego mixed with goodness give rise to mind, and the presiding deity is Aniruddha. So yeah, and then false ego plus passion gives rise to buddhi, which is intelligence, and senses, right? So intelligence is what? It is a discriminatory power which we use to understand the object, and yeah. So characteristics of buddhi is given. So it helps us discerning the nature of the object, to help the senses doubt, misapprehension, correct apprehension, memory, and sleep, right? So then false ego plus mode of ignorance give rise to tanmantras. And what are tanmantras? Sound, ether, touch, air, form, fire, taste, water. So here, in tanmantras, so what happened till now? So till now, what we saw was that there were 24 elements in Pradhana, which were just sitting like that. Then time enters, and and it starts agitating the material nature. Then comes Mahatattva, and in Mahatattva, first contamination comes as sorry. In Mahatattva, jivas come, and after jiva comes the contamination, which is false ego, and false ego mixes with three modes to give rise to mind, intelligence, and tanmantras, which is the gross elements. These are gross elements like earth, air, fire, water, right? So now we will dive deep into how these five gross elements and tanmantras are created. So uh, Lord Kapila Dev, he explains Mother Devahuti that the first creation of the existence happens with the sound. So the first thing which comes in this world, in this creation, is sound. And this is also confirmed in other Puranas also. Example, in Srimad Bhagavatam, when the creation of the universe is happening, so Lord Brahma, who's sitting in the darkness, and he hears the word tapa, and that word gives him knowledge. Like he starts doing austerity, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives him knowledge within his heart, right? So the first thing which comes in this world is sound, and because sound is something which needs to move to reach from one end to the other. Therefore comes the ether. The second is ether. And ether is the first gross element. And ether is the medium that carries sound and is connected to the senses of hearing. Then, because we are, because if there is sound and it is being carried by the ether, then comes touch, right? Touch is the subtle form of air, and through the interaction of ether and the influence of time, touch is produced. So touch includes the qualities of softness. So we read this, it includes the qualities of softness, hardness, cold, heat, and then comes the subtle element, which is form. And from air and touch under the destiny's arrangement, form is created. This gives shape to the individual object. And form is related to fire, then taste, then water, smell, and earth. Right. And so this is so technical that when I was reading it through, so I was trying to make sense like why is ether giving rise to touch and then touch giving rise to air? Why not touch giving rise to fire? But then when I question myself and I put it in an order, so we can also answer this. Let's try to answer this together. So which gross element has the following subtle characteristics? Okay. So only sound out of earth, fire, air, water, and ether. Which of these five do you feel it has only the characteristics of sound?
Ether.
Correct, Prabhuji. Ether. Because ether, you cannot actually see it. It does not have form. You cannot taste it. You cannot,
Touch it.
yeah, you cannot touch it. But then let's add one more characteristics, which is touch and sound. So which of the subtle element you can touch and hear?
Air.
Fire. Fire.
Who said air? Prabhuji?
Yeah, I said air. Yeah.
Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah,
Yes,
yes.
Prabhu. Air. So why air? Because air does not have form. There is no, you cannot feel, like, sorry, you can feel air, but you cannot actually see the form of air. It can take any form. Whichever container you put air in, it will take that form. Right? Now let's add another characteristic. So sound, touch, and form.
On fire.
Yeah. So this is fire because fire has a particular form. You can definitely feel feel it by touch, and then fire also has sound. Let's add one more. So Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa. If we add taste, what comes out?
Water.
Yes, water. Why? Because we can drink water, we can taste water. We cannot taste fire. We cannot taste the air. We cannot taste the ether. And water has a form. That's true. Sparsha, we can touch water. We take bath every day. And Shabda, the sound of the waves, the most calming sound. And then if we add Gandha, what comes out? The last one.
Earth.
Earth. Yes. So when I read the verses, if I was like just reading it through, it was very difficult for me to understand. But then it makes sense that these subtle senses, subtle characteristics are uh, denoting each of the gross element, and therefore you can see the cycle now. So this is how it happens, and it is a continuous chain. It can never happen that after ether water will come. It is always that ether will turn into touch, then air will be formed, and then form, fire, taste, water, smell, and ether. And Kapil Dev also mentions that earth is the sum of all the five uh, subtle characteristics, and therefore it is the place where all the other gross elements also exist. So like, yeah, that's the basis of sustenance for us, basically, he says. Right now, we read in the translation about Virata Purusha. So now, so the anda, that is the term, the egg of the universe is there, and this egg of the universe is very beautifully explained as having multiple coverings, and each gross element is a thicker covering on one top of the other, and in the center of this egg there is Virat Purusha. And Virat Purusha, uh, so Virat Purusha here is right now sleeping, and all the demigods are trying to wake Virat Purusha. So the Virat Purusha has a mouth, and the speech organ is sorry, the sense organ over there is speech, which is controlled by fire god, right? So like all these demigods, they enter into different parts of Virat Purusha to wake him up and to cause the existence of the creation. But then Virat Purusha is not waking up. So you can see that, and this is also very reflective because when I was a small kid, my mother, still they in India, they say that, आंखों की रोशनी चली जाएगी. They never say that something else, कि आंखों की रोशनी, it is like always light in our eyes, and which is controlled by the sun god. And then nostrils, wind god; mouth, fire god; then skin, the devtas of herbs; then genitals is deities of water; then death is anus. Similarly, you'll see here, I was just looking at this, that the legs of Virat Purusha, under under the belt, the body is considered to be very contaminated, but Sri Vishnu is taking his place in the legs of Virat Rupa. That shows that Lord is so humble. I was just reflecting on this, like all the other demigods, they are taking higher positions. Indra is taking hands, and fire god is taking mouth, wind god is taking nostrils, sun god is taking eyes, but our Lord Vishnu is taking the legs. I think I missed that in this, but yeah. And then intelligence, Lord Brahma, and okay, so false ego is Lord Shiva. There's a mistake here in this slide. So yeah, but then the problem was, even after all the senses are there, all the sense organs were there, all the devtas were there, still the Virat Purusha was not waking up. And there was a missing link. And that missing link was the Supreme Consciousness, which was uh, Aniruddha. And Lord comes and enters the Virat Roop in the form of consciousness. And then the Virat Roops wakes up to perform the activity of creation. So yeah, so that is all what is talked about in this chapter. And so a quick summary is what we read. So we start with Sankhya philosophy, where Lord Kapila Dev is telling about why the benefits of Sankhya philosophy. Then Lord Kapila Dev is talking about how Pradhana is existing, how Pradhana comes into existence with 24 elements. Then the 25th element, time, comes in place. With time, the material energy is agitated, and Jiva are also impregnated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then comes Mahatattva, which is very glowing, and it is so bright that it can cause darkness to dissuade. And after Mahatattva comes uh, the Sattva Gun, which is the pure consciousness, and this is the original Krishna consciousness state. And after Krishna consciousness, we choose a contamination, which is false ego, and with that contamination, uh, the mixed with the three modes comes mind, intelligence, and five sense objects and sense organs. And then we saw how the different demigods, they take different parts in the body of the Virat Purusha. And but still the Virat Purusha is not waking up. It's why? Because the supreme personality of Godhead has not entered his body. So once the consciousness enters into the body of the Virat Purusha, he wakes up. So that is the summary of this chapter. Any questions, reflections, comments?
No, I mean, definitely a reflection, Prabhu. I mean, like an appreciation for you because this chapter is very fairly technical and you still, led it very nicely. So thank you for that. And you're even making it interesting with various technical, Q&As in between and the especially the five elements one, how each element builds upon the previous one was really interesting and yeah, something that I've also found very interesting. So just like a small question, maybe if you want to shed light on this. So these technical chapters, right? So how should we take them in terms of relevance to our uh, practical bhakti? If you have any thoughts on that.
Yes, Prabhuji. So the idea of understanding so technical subject like creation of the universe, the idea behind it is just to understand how great the Supreme Personality of Godhead is and how minute we are. And at every step, like of this, maybe I was not good enough to make you understand, like how in every step the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally is actually controlling the entire process. It's not something which is happening by its own or by chance. It is something which is totally under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we read that the creation of the universe happened by the by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we understand that if somebody is putting so much brain to create something this complex, there should be a purpose behind it, right? And that is the first question which we should ask after reading these technical details, is that what is the purpose of such a big chemical laboratory of this creation to happen? Like if there is no purpose of this life, then I think nobody will or at least God will not waste his time to create this world. So if he has put his heart, mind and soul to create this world, then there is a purpose.
Beautiful, Prabhu. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Any other?
So, Prabhuji, I also want to reflect on this, on the chapter. You led us through a phenomenally technical chapter, and you made these slides. They were so easy for us to understand. Including the five elements, and then connecting them to the senses, and then the elements from the most subtle to the most gross element. You covered a lot of topics. With and the reflection that I have, after listening to you, is that even though the material universe is made up of these elements of the Mahat Tattva, even though it is made up of the Mahat Tattva, to enliven it, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is needed. And the other reflection that I had, which is also connected to the first reflection, is that there are demigods that control the various senses, but those demigods, their function completely stops once um, unless their function is meaningless unless the Supreme Personality of Godhead has enlivened this Mahat Tattva. So they can all try, but still that the core enlivening is necessary. And I was reflecting on this in terms of when a human body, when a person passes away, everything's functioning till the minute before he or she passes away, the eyes, ears, sometimes, everything's functioning. And the minute the soul or the person passes away, the soul breaks its connection with this physical body, all the other senses also stop functioning immediately. So, that is the realization that I got from your class today. I don't know if I drew a right conclusion or not, but that's what I felt.
Beautiful, Prabhuji. Actually, this is the essence of explaining, like Kapil, they've also explaining all this about Virat Rupa and how important it is for the life existence to be there as consciousness. And interestingly, like I had a very limited time. Actually, uh, this chapter would have taken one more session. Actually, I had to cut a lot of things while I was speaking. That's why I was like, little messed up in my mind while speaking. But then one very important thing which was highlighted by Prabhupada in the purports was that, you know, we talked about these. So, for example, for Aniruddha is the presiding deity of mind. And then similarly, sorry, yeah, here, sorry, just a second. Okay. Yeah. So, for example, um, mind is the sense depth of mind is Chandra. For sense depth for intelligence is Lord Brahma, and false ego, the sense depth for false ego is Lord Shiva. So, Prabhupada actually mentioned that, by worshipping Lord Shiva, one can subdue their false ego. By worshipping Lord Brahma, one can subdue the one, if one is finding it difficult to make decision using their intelligence, they can worship Lord Brahma. One can worship Chandra to calm their mind. So Prabhupada actually mentioned these, but he said that, worshipping them independently is useless, because even though they are sense devtas, uh, a devotee should always, even if they are worshipping to Lord Shiva, Brahma, or Chandra for calming their mind, false intelligence, or ego, it should be with an idea that they want to develop love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You know, because they cannot work independently, and this brings us to the second offense to the holy name, which is that considering the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Brahma to be equal to or independent of Lord Vishnu, right? So everything was making sense when I was looking into this. And um, many devotees says that, there is a way. If you worship Lord Shiva, then you can go to Vishnu. So even Prabhupada said that, ki if you worship Lord Shiva, because he's in turn worshipping Sankarshan, who's presiding deity of false ego, so then you can subdue your false ego and eventually see the Lord. Yeah, I don't know if it made if it made sense, but yeah.
It did, Prabhu. It was very useful. It was very useful. It did make a lot of sense. You summarized the chapter and you gave us the essence of the chapter. Even I was looking at the chapter. The purports are all so long and so technical. Hats off to you for reading through all of them and then crystallizing it to such beautiful slides. You did a tremendous amount of work. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
Thank you, Prabhuji. All glories to Jagannath Gopal Prabhu, who offered me this seva. And the only uh, the only thing which I should be appreciated for is that I had the courage to say yes. That's it. Otherwise, the material was given by Prabhupada. The listeners were given by Prabhupada. The opportunity was given by Prabhupada's devotees. What I have to offer.
Jai. Wonderful, Prabhu.
Very nice, Prabhuji. I echo Krishna Prabhu and Jayannath Gopal Prabhu. Very nicely summarized and made easy, like the whole technical chapter. You gave the essence in a precise manner without missing any single point. We really appreciate your time and effort. I could see the lot of efforts, time you have put there. And also, Prabhu, just one clarification. Whatever tanmatras you are telling, tanmatras and sense objects, both are same, right? I guess it is. Tanmatras are like touch and all these tanmatras, whatever you have listed, they are the other synonym for that is
Yes, Prabhuji. So
sense object.
tanmantras and senses, yeah, same. Like for example, tanmantra is shabd and sense is sound. So yeah,
Yeah, sense objects we can say. We can say sense
yeah,
object is tanmatra, right?
yes, yes, Prabhuji. Like just English version of the Sanskrit. Like gandha is smell, rasa is taste, rupa is form, sparsha is touch, shabda is sound.
Okay, got it, Prabhu. Yeah. Thank you very much for a very nice presentation. Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much,
much, Prabhu.
Prabhu. It
Thank you
was
so much, Prabhu.
amazing. I just want to echo what Kameshwar Prabhu, Krishnan Prabhu, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu are all appreciating. You put in a lot of work and summarize such a complex chapter in beautiful slides. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
The same, Prabhu. I echo all the people who spoke before me. Definitely, it's not an easy thing. When I read when I was given the opportunity to read the verses, I was thinking, oh, this is like really super, super, philosophical. And this is like it's not a story, it's not a pastime, it could be very dry. And I was wondering how, you're going to, explain this. And you, you know, you made it like really, um, like Krishan Prabhu said, you brought the essence and crystallized it, and in a form where it was very palatable for us to follow along, and also you made it interesting by, um, you know, uh, being very interactive, making it interactive. Especially, I also like the Bhagavad Gita verses, interspersing throughout, and also um, how the five senses proceeded. I really like that slide, how from Shabda to Sparsha and everything. It was really wonderful. Thank you, Prabhu, for really getting into the deep end of it and helping us to understand what Kapila Deva is saying. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
And just mention one more thing, Prabhu. I don't know if you noticed, maybe Jagannath Gopal Prabhu noticed, it talks about the 1,000 heads. And I was reminded of the Purusha Suktam, Sahasra Purusha, Sahasraksha, Sahasrapad. So there is a lot of similarities with this Purusha Suktam. And then also Lord Shiva's temples have these 5 elements. There, Lord Shiva has, I've gone, even this time I went to a temple where Lord Shiva is underwater or in water. And, Sri Sailam, I think, is something else. Maybe Kameshwar Prabhu might know. So there are these 5 major elements, and usually Lord Shiva's temples are associated with the 5 elements.
Yes, Prabhu. So Sri Salem is Vailingam and
Vayu.
Arunachalam is Agnilingam. Agnilingam is Arunachalam. Sri Salem is Vayulingam. And like that, as you mentioned, all 5 gross elements, 5 elements, Siva Lingas are there.
Yes. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Prabhu. We'll do Vanchakalpa.
Yes, Prabhu.
Vanchakalpa, Kripasindu Bhaya Chapati Tanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Antakoti Vaishnavinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Grace Samaksh Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.